All right. Good evening. Good evening. Good evening. I certainly hope and pray that all is well. I was actually going to sleep, and I remembered a video that I wanted to do. I want to talk about. I already did it once, but it always helps to revisit using a pendulum for those who have been watching me and seeing me use a pendulum. Okay, a pendulum. Okay. Like I said, if it whatever it is, if it swings, okay, whatever, you can use it. All right. Um, I'll just talk as though there may be new people here. All right. Now, sometimes, like I feel like when I'll speak for myself when I'm doing talks or whatever, maybe spiritual talks, talking about, for example, a pendulum. I'm thinking that I'm talking to people who are familiar uh, with this tool. Sometimes we can, talk and think that whatever we're talking about that is of interest to us, and we know that there is others out there. It depends on what it doesn't really depend whatever community you're in. Okay, I'm gonna tell you right now, I don't like the labels. I don't like labels at all. I never have. Okay. So, but I read tarot on here. So people would say I'm in a tarot community. Okay, that's fine. Um, they have spiritual community, tarot community, this community, that community, whatever. Okay, this sector, that sector, whatever. Okay. Um, but and so I have to remember there may be, well, I know for sure there are, especially with the things that I've been talking about concerning my life and the things that I've encountered here. There are people who are watching who may not be familiar with, I'll just stick with the topic of the pendulum, okay? Who may not be familiar with it. And I feel as though it kind of hit me one day, what people will do, because what happened was I was driving the other day and I looked over the car next to me and I saw someone that I know. Uh, for those who are watch regularly, I often talk about going to church with my grandmother, and when I was a teenager. So she was a member of that church. Beautiful woman, absolutely gorgeous. I always thought she was so gorgeous. And I saw her, rolled down my window, spoke to her, whatever, and she spoke to me, asked me how I was, blah blah blah, this that, and the other. She's like, I don't get to talk to you on Facebook. I said, no, I'm not on there anymore. And she asked me, she said, how's mom? Now, let me just say this. For those people who know me, who are watching my channel, there's no need for you to pretend that I'm not saying she was, but I've had this encounter before. There's no need for you to pretend as though you don't know anything about it. You're not watching it. You don't know anything what I'm talking about. Okay. Even if you don't watch it, a person doesn't watch it. You know how that goes. Word spreads. Somebody's going to see it. Inevitably, word's going to get, word is going to be spread. So I had only one person who was conscientious enough to not ask me that question. And you see her at the gym and at Planet Fitness, not that other gym that I have been talking about. She was, conscientious enough, and I would say maybe compassionate enough or smart enough or wise enough to not ask that question. Okay. Otherwise, she would have asked, you know what I'm saying, if this was not an issue here. So you don't have to, for those of you who are watching or who will watch, who live here, who I know, who have known all my life. Let me make sure the sound is on. That's why I got this thing in my ear, listening on my other device. I forgot. I was like, why is this in my ear? Oh, that's why. Okay. Don't ask me that. Okay. because then it just opens a can of worms. Because then when I respond, because I'm a truthful person, I'm going to tell you the truth. I'm not going to say anything negative about her. I'm not silly. Okay. Um, and when, depending on what I say, how you respond lets me know that, oh, well, you already knew this. Well, maybe you already knew when I didn't know. Maybe you already knew when I was 10, 15, 17. Maybe you knew. Okay. I didn't know. Okay. But nevertheless, I'm just saying to you, I know people want to be courteous. And that was a question I was asked all the time. You know, um, how's your mom? How's your mom? How's your mom? That was normal. Well, I guess that's something that people do anyway. But I'm saying, I'm just letting you know, if you're watching, whoever's watching, and there's talk, because that's what people do. You know what I'm saying? Don't ask me that question. Okay. Again, it opens a can of worms depending on how I respond. Now, some people may not know at all and say, what? How you respond lets me know that either you already knew or you really didn't know. Don't ask me that. Okay. Especially if you have been watching me or you've been hearing the gossip based off of what I've been sharing here. Uh, I'm letting you know it's okay, but don't ask me that question. Okay. So I'm saying that to say it led to another thought that, well, what I'm leading to is I had a thought that there are people who are watching you who you do know. And I grew up in the church. Okay. Doesn't come to the realization. Obviously, that doesn't mean that they came to that realization a long time ago, but I really have come to realization of it now. And they see you using this pendulum. I'm not talking about people from the church, just people, period, that I grew up with who may not be familiar with this tool. And you might want to call it witchcraft. You can call it that if you choose. You understand what I'm saying? That's not what it is. Um, but people will become curious, okay, and they will try it themselves, because these are the things that it's just natural. They'll try it themselves. Some people won't. Oh no, I'm scared. I don't know what that is. What's making that move? Okay. I don't want anyone, and you can, if you are churchy or Christian or religious or whatever, I don't want to, how can I say, don't try to utilize something that you're not familiar with. Okay. Um, just because you see me doing it, let me try that. Let me see. Okay, everybody's gone. Okay. But let me read this to you real quick before I go into it. A spiritual pendulum, because what you're going to do, especially if you've never used it before, and you have questions about maybe, I don't know, your personal life or your job and all of this type of thing, you're going to pick it up. And you're going to find anything that swings, a necklace, like I've shown before, you can use, if it swings, you your purse. I've used a shopping bag. It doesn't matter. Okay. If it swings, you can use it. All right. I talked about how you can use your body for it. And I wanted to give a demonstration of that, but I won't be doing it right now. Um, but I don't know that much about that. I just know that how it works in it works with me. Okay. Now let me just read this real quick. Okay. Um, everything is like one. We live in this world where they have separated everything. This spiritual, that's science, that's religion, that's okay. So we see this pendulum moving. We see people in the spiritual communities, using it and only think in regards of spiritual and not go further than that. Okay. I'm not saying everybody, of course. All right. So let me just read this. I don't have the book, like I said, that I had before, but this is the same thing that you'll find in this book. It's called A Bit of Pendulums, for those of you who may be interested. Okay. This is not new. It's not new agey. This is, there's nothing new about it. Okay. Just like a wand. It's not new. It's not new age. It's not just the movies. There are, for the Christians that are watching. Okay. There are old uh, pictures or drawn pictures, excuse me, of Jesus, quote unquote, using a wand. Okay. Um, where it just shows that the power or the miraculous, quote unquote, things that he did were how he directed the power through the wand. It gives it direction. Okay. You see that in the movie The X-Men. I can't remember. It wasn't Pyro. I think it was his brother who was able to, I don't know how to, whatever the power that came through his physical self, and how it was just all over the place. And they had to channel it. You understand what I'm saying? And teach him how to do that. Or who was the guy with the had the thing with his eyes? Was that Cyclops? I can't remember, where the power just went everywhere, but they gave him the glasses and a tool. So to control it, okay, to direct it. All right. This is making my, okay. I've been looking at the screen way too long. My eyes feel funny. All right. So let me read this real quick. A spiritual pendulum swings due to the ideomotor effect. Okay. Now, let's hear it again. Not just a pendulum. I put in a spiritual pendulum to separate the two. Okay. A spiritual pendulum swings due to the ideomotor effect. Okay. So you're thinking spiritual, but what actually moves it? Now, I had a friend years ago. She was so skeptical about everything. And she's like, I don't believe that. I don't believe in that. You make it move. You make it move. Okay. So let me just show you this real quick. What is yes? Okay. Now you do see my hand moving. Okay. It's a weight at the bottom of it. It's moving, and the weight is going to make my hand move. Okay. What? Now I'm going to move it. I have to ask you. I have to actually swing my arm in order to make it begin to move. Okay. Now I'm going to ask the pendulum what is no. Okay. You see my hand moving. It's a weight there. It's pulling it. Okay. Now I'm going to show you how it would look if I made it move on my own. I'm not just, it's not just the hand that's moving or my fingers that's moving. It's my whole arm making it move. All right. So let's get back to this. So I was saying about basically being holistic beings, in that, yes, there's a spiritual aspect, but there is a scientific or biological, would that be the word, aspect as well? Okay. The spiritual pendulum swings due to the ideomotor effect, where your subconscious mind sends imperceptible muscle signals that move your hand, making the pendulum act as an antenna for what your intuition. See how that ties together. Okay. The physical aspect and the intuitive or the spiritual aspect work hand in hand. All right. Or here it is, act as an antenna for your intuition, higher self, your higher self. You know how you would hear people say, you can look at it a number of ways, a myriad of ways. People will say, you already know, okay, what it is, everything. Okay. It's literally in you. Okay. So whereas one aspect of you may be questioning, okay, I just got, let me make sure I'm on. Okay. The higher self already knows the answers. Your what intuition, your intuitive knowing. Okay. So, like for people that are readers, a lot of times you may be giving someone a reading. They have a question, you give them a reading, and they say, "I thought so." That's what the querent would say, or the person you're giving the reading for. "I thought so," or "I knew that." You already know. I'm just kind of confirming it. Although I have had situations where I've gone and I absolutely did not know, and they were absolutely 100% correct. Okay, but maybe I consciously wasn't aware, but my higher self, okay, my subconscious self knew, like as we saw what I just read, knew the answers are already within. Okay, so we see how the higher self, the knowing, the subconscious mind that already knows, sends the signal, okay, causing uh, the muscles to move, imperceptible muscles. So I talk about on here how, I work out and lifting weights and all of that kind of thing. I was talking to someone a few months back. I don't remember where I was, but we were talking about that, and she was sharing with me a particular form of exercise that you can do where you have so many muscles in the body that no matter how much you may work out and lift weights or whatever, there are certain muscles you still really just don't hit because they're imperceptible, in other words. Okay. And this particular exercise that she was sharing with me, you it hits those muscles and you will absolutely feel it no matter how, if you've never worked those muscles before. And just hitting, doing the some of the exercises, the weight training and whatnot, they don't hit those muscles. Okay. So, just like we talk about uh, the seven chakras, yet they will tell you that those are the main ones. Okay. The main chakras. However, there's so many more. All right. So let me finish reading this here. Okay. Okay. Now, what does it do? It's revealing answers to questions or detecting energy shifts for self exploration, healing, and guidance, not necessarily a fixed future. Okay. How it works, the spiritual perspective, subconscious connection. The pendulum taps into your intuition and subconscious mind, bringing inner knowledge to the surface. Energy receiver, it's seen as a tool. It's just a tool, okay, to detect subtle vibrations, energy fields, or blockages around people, places, or objects. So that book, for example, A Bit of Pendulums, in the back, I mean, a pendulum is so much more. You can utilize it for so much more than just yes or no. Okay. So there are, in that particular book, uh, I mean, it's just so many things in the back on different ways that you can pendulum. It's like, wow, I never even thought of any of this before. Okay. A guidance tool. Again, these cards are a tool. These things, like I talked about, a wand is a tool. One thing I just couldn't get the swing of were rods, but I didn't work with them long enough either. I got frustrated. However, I got frustrated when I first started using a pendulum as well. Okay. Guidance tool, you set intentions and ask questions, usually yes or no, and the pendulum's movement, swings, circles translate to answers from your higher self. Okay, this also says guides or universal energy, which we are connected to the universal energy. We are connected to our guides physically as well as spiritually. Okay. The science behind it now, the ideomotor effect, micro movements. Your brain sends tiny unconscious signals to your hand muscles, these imperceptible muscles, causing minute movements that aren't noticeable to you. Amplification. The pendulum's weight okay, and length amplify these slight hand movements, resulting in a visible swing or rotation. or rotation, don't just pick it up and see that for those of you who are watching who've never used one but you're curious and you want to try, and you probably have been trying, okay, and see that what I have for me is yes, and think that that's yes for you. It might be, but it might not be. Now, this guy that I talked about that I dated, um, I was showing him how to use a pendulum one time. His were the exact opposite. His yes was swung the way my no swung. His no swung the way my yes swung. Okay? Inner truth. The swings reflect your own subconscious feelings or beliefs about the answer, acting as a mirror to your inner state, not predicting fate. Now, this is interesting too, because that's why people talk about, not getting tarot readings so much, don't rely on them, okay, or any of these tools, because you have the power. We are co-creators. You can make something be whatever is planted in your mind, when that may not have been what was going to be anyway. Then, which gets into a whole nother talk. I talked about predestination on here one time. All right, so you have to be careful with that. Okay. Um, Divination, answering yes or no questions. Energy healing is used for there. Can be used for energy healing, locating energy blockages or imbalances in chakras, self-exploration, gaining clarity, or understanding deeper truths. In essence, the spiritual pendulum bridges the conscious and subconscious, translating your inner knowing and subtle energetic responses into visible motion. Okay. So, for those who may be watching who are set in your head that, oh, she's a witch, I'm talking about these people I grew up with here. The people in the group that wanted to attack me because you all are trying to use them too, if you never have. Some of the church folks, some of y'all trying to use it too, if you never have. Okay. You see the science behind it. Of course, there was a time when the church thought that science was witchcraft. Okay. But anyway, but we've moved past that. So let's continue to move. Okay. I told you about they got these old ancient pictures of Jesus using a wand. Okay. All right. So, let's move out of the Harry Potter line of thinking. Okay. So anyway, now you see me asking questions in a way kind of willy-nilly. Okay. I've been using a pendulum for over 20 years. Now, I was the person who just, somebody told me about it. I was like, what? I was in my 20s, mid or late 20s. I was like, wow. Where can I get one of those? Okay. And the guy told me where to go. The guy I was talking to about it, he told me where to go. I went and I got it, and I immediately just started using it. You know what I'm saying? I had many, many days of being frustrated with it. Sometimes I would get angry, throw it across the room, all kind of shit, because I did not have the knowledge that I just read. I did not have that knowledge, number one. Number two, like there's a woman I watched on here. She was talking about rods, and she talked about how your tools will lie to you. They most definitely will. But who's really lying to you? It's not the tool in and of itself. It's you. Sometimes, okay. Well, let me stay on track. Okay. Um, you again, you may see me use it kind of asking willy nilly. I've been using it for 20 years. Okay, over 20 years. When you use a pendulum, the reason I would get so frustrated is because it would give me one answer and that was not what the outcome was, or the answer, or whatever. I have had that very first pendulum I had. One day it was just gone. Now I was saying with the lady who raised me, she might have took it and hid it, or threw it away, or something like that. Okay, she was trying to hide so much from me. Okay, but I just could have just lost it. Okay, I've heard about that with pendulums. I have one right now with a small purple amethyst. I have no clue where it is, but one day, and I haven't seen it for months. But one day I'll look up and they'll be like a cat. Yeah, You're like, where's the fucking cat? Okay. And the cat, he just goes on and one day it just pops up, like, meow, here I am. You know what I'm saying? Sometimes that's how a pendulum is, okay? But anyway, um, what am I trying to say? Let me get back to it. But again, if it swings, you can use it. All right. When you use it, you have to be very, very conscious of the way that you're asking the question. Okay. You have to be very, very precise, and you cannot leave any room for, you know what I mean, type of questioning. Okay, you know what I'm saying, type of questioning. Okay, actually, these things, these tools and whatnot, they help you as well with communication, insight, because of the way in which you have to ask the question. You can ask the question one way, whatever, and get a no. And then ask the question, be much more precise with it and much more definite with what you're and get yes. And the answer will probably be yes. Okay. It's kind of like no gray area, black and white. Okay. Again, I've been using it for over 20 years. So I got to the point where I can ask like that, kind of willy nilly, and I'm going to get the correct answer. Okay. Because what I've become more in tune and aligned with what, not the tool, but with myself. Because as we just read, that is where the answer comes from, yourself, not the tool. Okay. So honestly, it doesn't matter if you're out and about, you have you pendulum, maybe you carry one with you all the time, and oops, I forgot it. It doesn't matter that you forgot it. Do you have a necklace on? Can you take your hoop earring off and put some kind of string around it? Like I showed you one time when I did the old video with my glasses. If it's your purse, a bag, I have used a charger, long as it's got that heavy, the adapter on the end. Okay, it does not matter it doesn't, if it swings, it doesn't. I could take the stone off and just use the chain. It's still going to swing. It's better though, that I have a little bit of weight on the end. You want to have some weight on the end. Okay. So understand that. Okay. So I'm saying that because I've seen people do what I did. I'm not talking about on YouTube at all. I'm not talking about that. All right. I'm talking about in real time, long before I got on YouTube. When I went and first got one and just didn't know what the hell I was doing with it. And, I've seen people do that and thinking, oh, that's it. That's the answer. And it may not be. Okay. Sometimes I have been given an answer where the answer was the opposite. And I would question the pendulum. Did you say, tell me that because I ought to know that I already know the answer? Yeah, you know the answer. Don't rely on the tool. You understand what I'm saying? You know the answer. Again, the power is, we just read it, okay, how scientifically or physiologically, okay, it works with the higher self, the subconscious self, the spiritual aspect, the intuitive self, okay, to bring out the physical emotion of the swing. The answer is already in you. Okay, so sometimes it's like people don't rely on tarot readings, don't rely on these things. Rely on you become in tune and aligned with yourself. Okay. Um, I think that's it for now. I just want to share that because it kind of hit me one day. Some of these people that are watching you, that are here, okay, that know you, that are pretending like they're not watching. At least they're not going to say nothing to you that they're watching. Okay. And I understand the sensitive nature. I'm just like, I would tell somebody, I seen your YouTube. You know what I'm saying? I don't have no problem with that. You understand what I'm saying? even if you're skeptic, even if I was skeptical, you know, I would say, you know, I'm sorry you went through those things. You know, I didn't know that. You know, I hope all is well, you know. But I understand that these things are very difficult for people to do. People are very sensitive, you know, um, and they're not able to sometimes do that. Plus, they don't know how you're going to take it. They don't know what you're going to say. But I did want, I thought about, let me explain to them, you know, how to use it, because I can picture folks jumping up, sitting somewhere, you know, she said, if it's swing, you use it, acting like they don't want to touch something. They see that swing, you know, or sneaking into some store or taking off their necklace or whatever the case may be, and trying to use it. Okay, trying to use it without any real knowledge of it. So, you know, it's just like, be responsible for me. I'm not talking about you. Be responsible and give more information so that they're not just out there just doing something, and or some of these people that are determined they're going to be like me. Okay, so be responsible and share, give some knowledge, you know, so they're not just out there messing around with something that they're not knowledgeable of and don't know where to begin, and may be embarrassed to go to a store, don't know where to go, embarrassed to even in front of their own selves to look online, so on and so forth. Okay, so that's all I wanted to share. And I certainly hope that you all have a wonderful evening. I'm sure there'll be a lot more that I could share. Like I said, I tried those rods, and I was like, you know, I'm too old for this shit. I ain't got the patience. You know what I'm saying? 1 minute it's saying this no, next minute it's saying this no. 1 minute this one move, next minute. I was like, what the fuck is this shit? You know what I'm saying? I think it's some bullshit. You know, so I just tossed it to the side. But I love watching people use those rods. And I said, well, maybe they were just old, because I got them at this really old store, and the package looked old and dusty and everything. And I said, you know what, maybe I'll give it a try again later on. All right. Okay. And once again, I want to just reiterate, it doesn't matter. It makes no difference. I already demonstrated once. I'm trying to look around my room to see what I have to show that it does not have to be, it doesn't have to be, what am I trying to say? It does not have to be something that you buy from the store with the pretty stone on the. It does not. Okay, this is called capitalism, and in capitalistic society, they're going to sell, market something to you any way they possibly can for you to buy it. That okay, that's capitalism. That's okay, you know. But understand, for your own self, it doesn't matter. You don't have to have a stone, a crystal, or in this crystal mean that. It makes no difference. I've talked to people who live in other countries where they use pendulum, but they don't use these. Well, 'cause they're poor countries. You know, their countries have been raped by Western civilization to go get these stones, to go get the crystals, and they've made their lands, you know, barren and whatnot, just to sell us shit. Like when I went to Israel, and we saw how much, well, we called it the live sea, but how much of the Dead Sea had been, you call it dried up or whatever. Not so much dried up, because why? Because they're taking the minerals, because that's what it is. It's just full of minerals, to bottle them up and sell them to the Western world. You know, for your skin to be pretty and all of the bullshit that they're telling you. Okay, you know, when, you know, soap, water, maybe some Vaseline or some shit like that works as well. It's not external, it's with internal, drinking water, eating fruit, vegetables, so on and so forth. You understand what I'm saying? Okay. All right. I just want to see, I'm looking around my room. I can't find nothing right now that I could show you that swing. I mean, I see, like, I got my glasses over there. I just don't have a string to put them on, or oh, I put on my pendulum. Okay, let me just give you a quick demonstration. Okay, for those of you who, oh, okay, let me see. Let me see if I can. Um, that is one reason why sometimes I'll use a necklace when you watch me on here. Okay, so I took the pendulum. That's the biggest, that's the string I could find, chain thing, and these some glasses. Okay, so what is yes? See? Okay, no matter what it is, as long as it's weight. Okay, so what is no? Okay, all right, and make sure. Okay, now I ain't gonna tell nobody to do nothing. I'm not telling you to do this, and I ain't gonna tell nobody to do nothing without consulting you, the God that you believe in, or what, however you want to look at it. You understand what I'm saying? First, everything is not for everybody. Okay, you be using this thing and be mine be somewhere else because it was like maybe that wasn't a tool for you to. Maybe I ain't supposed to use rods. Okay, or maybe that just wasn't a tool that you were not supposed to use. Okay, maybe it's just not in alignment with your being, or whatever the case, or if you have a strong faith in whatever your religious practice is. Okay, and that's okay. All right. Something else I was going to say about that. I can't remember. Okay. And you make sure you ask it, what is yes? What is no? What I've seen people, what is yes? It'll swing this way. What is no? It'll swing the opposite way. What is yes? It'll swing this way. What is no? It'll swing that way. You understand what I'm saying? So don't expect either the swing to be, well, if it swung this way, it got to swing that way. No. Okay. Don't expect because it's circled clockwise that it's got to circle counterclockwise for the other answer. No. Okay. You have to ask it and work with it. Okay. If that's what you're determined to do. All right. Be careful though. And one thing that I am challenged with is finding things. Even I have psychic readings that I've done for people. Where's my such and such? Sometimes I hit it, sometimes I don't. Everybody has some people have things that they're excellent at, and some people have things. Those same people, that doesn't mean they're excellent at every single thing. Okay. They have more of a challenge with other things. Okay. In that regard. All right. All right. And I'll leave that there for now. For those who may have been using it and you just ask yes and no, if you this stuff I will teach in the class that I will have. If you work with various deities, if you work with your ancestors, okay, you can if you do, and you can, working with pendulum, you ask that deity, that ancestor, what is yes, what is no, because it may not be the same thing that it is for you. Okay. You can work with body parts, you can work with your the various physiological systems of the body. Okay. I ain't telling you, don't make no diagnosis on yourself. This ain't no medical advice. Okay. I'm just telling you there's a lot of ways to use it. And everything for the most part. Well, I guess I could say that. Could I say that? That is has life. Okay. Where you be surprised what you could ask. What object you can ask about whatever. All right. All right. I'm just going to leave that there. But that would be for people who have been using it for a while. I've used grocery bags. If I have weight in it and I'm in the store, oh shit, I got a question about whatever. I'm holding it, little plastic bags, got weight in it. It'll give me the answer. Okay. All right. That's it for now. All right. You all have favor. Peace.